Well, hello and welcome, everybody. This is your host, Ken D. Foster. Welcome to another amazing show today. I believe you will be stimulated, open up your creativity on this show, and maybe think in ways that you haven't thought about for a while. We're going to be discussing a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is free will. And why is it that you should listen to a show about free will? Well, I want to say this. Most people think they're running on free will, but the truth of the matter is that you're really running on a lot of subconscious beliefs that have been programmed by family members, by teachers, by religious organizations, by friends, and you think you're free, but you're quite frankly, you're not as free as you think. So this is a show we're going to talk about free will, how to tap into it. Where does it start? And how do I know if I'm not really free? Well, I can answer that one for you pretty quickly. It's about results. Think about the results you're getting in your world, okay? Are you on the career path that you want to be on? Are you in a place where you're feeling happy? Are you in a place where you have the right relationship? That relationship is thriving. Are you in a place where you're making the amount of money that you want to make? Do you feel like you're on purpose? Do you feel a sense of fulfillment in your world? Do you feel like there's more, but you don't know what that is? Do you feel like somehow you're less than, or do you act more than people, right? If you're in a place where you're getting the results that you want, great. But if you're in a place where you're feeling like you're left out, something's off, something's not quite there, then I can almost guarantee that you are running on a program. So how do we break those patterns? Well, today we're going to talk about the way to break those patterns. I'm just going to start out with the first area that I think I'd like to put out in your head, and that is clarifying your values. Doesn't sound like free will. Why do I need to clarify values if I'm gonna learn how to use my will in a greater way? Well, because if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you're about, then it's hard to know the direction that you want to go get the results that you want. And it's very difficult to tap into free will. I once asked a great scholar, I said to a friend of mine, his name is Dr. Irvin Laszlo. If you don't know Dr. Laszlo, he's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize twice. He's written over 106 books. He's a systems thinker. And I asked him about what's the price of greatness? And he said this. He said, the price of greatness is, first of all, you got to know who you are. And second of all, you got to live from a concept of oneness. Now, we're not going to get into the concept of oneness today. We're talking about free will. But just suffice to say, he's talking about realizing that everything is connected. Micro, macro, in the universe, and you're part of that. You're part of this field that we're all connected on. So I want you to be connected and understand that part of it. But I want you to be able to open up your will to a place where you move past limited thinking. You tune into a place inside of yourself where you can overcome anything that comes your way, pretty much, okay? And you feel good about it on a consistent basis. So it does take courage to do this. It does take some mindfulness. It does take a commitment to inner freedom. And if you're willing to take that ride with me, I've got the top psychologist in the world on this study, on this, this area that we're going to discuss, free will. He's written a book on it, and he's going to discuss that and a whole bunch more as soon as we get back from the break. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Kendi Foster. My guest today is Dr. Roy Baumeister. Dr. Baumeister, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me on, Ken.
For those of you that don't know the good professor, Roy is one of the world's most prolific and influential psychologists. He's published over 700 scientific works, including over 40 books. In 2013, he received the highest award given by the Association of Psychological Science, the William James Fellow Award, in recognition of his lifetime achievements. As of 2023, he holds affiliations with Harvard University, Constructor University Constructor University Bremen, Germany, Florida State University, BetterUp Inc., USA, and University of Bamberg in Germany also. Additionally, Mr. Baumeister serves as the president-elect of the International Positive Psychology Association, and so much more. I don't know how you have time to do all this, but teach classes, be on boards, write books, and have a life. That's great.
Well, managing your time is always important in many careers, and certainly in mine. And that's one of the things you can use your free will for.
Yeah, one of the things. Hey, listen, you've taught. We were talking before the show. You were talking about the popular class that you were talking on, Big Ideas at Harvard. How did you go from Big Ideas at Harvard into writing a book on free will?
Well, the book was in progress earlier. It's I set out. I had, as a student myself, I had dallied with philosophy because I wanted to deal with the big questions. My parents said, "Well, we're not going to pay tuition for a career that you can't make any money out of." But then psychology was a good compromise, and I could tackle many of these same questions just using the scientific method instead of the careful thinking and analyzing the way philosophers do. So I have books on meaning of life and the self and culture and nature and men and women and other things like that.
Nice. I want to talk to you, of course, about the new book and the role that free will plays in our life of overcoming personal challenges. But before we get to that place, what are some of the symptoms? I tried to give the symptoms in the monologue. Some of the symptoms that I see when a person is not really have their free will developed. What's your take on that?
On personal problems?
Well, yeah, on when symptoms that would indicate that your free will is really not activated to the point it needs to be activated.
Yes. Well, for that, there can be multiple reasons why that's not true, but it could be that you're just being swept along and you feel like you're only reacting to your environment rather than being able to steer things. One big thing that sets us apart, evolution, from all the other animals is we can foresee the future much better, and we can project and see there are multiple ways it can go, and choose our path, choose which one to do. So if you don't have that feeling that you've got a future in mind, not just what to have for lunch, but where you want to be in the next year or two or even 5 years. If you don't have that, if you're not moving towards something like that, that would be another sign you're not really doing it. My colleagues in clinical psychology say they have patients who just can't get themselves out of bed in the morning. They just don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to do anything. They don't even have any energy to make decisions. In fact, they're talking about writing another book on free will and psychotherapy and mental illness. So all those would be among the signs. that you're not using it. I mean, you mentioned there are a lot of unconscious processes that go on that influence our behavior. No question that's true, but still a lot is channeled through consciousness. The unconscious is a bit like a dog. It can react to simple things, and it's very powerful. Our minds are much bigger than a dog's, so we can have simple reactions to a lot of different things. But when it gets complicated, that's when the unconscious says, "Okay, we need consciousness to help to sort it out." You can think of consciousness as a place where the unconscious builds these sequences of thought and analyzes things and does logical reasoning. You mentioned your values too. Well, why do you need to clarify your values? Again, to react automatically or intuitively, you don't really need a lot of free will for that, but you might want to reflect on your values and really, if I have a choice to make, what's more important to me in the long run. That's where the conscious mind can come into play and sort things out.
Well, I think there's that piece too with the values piece, that if you're a conscious person, you're saying, I'm going to live these values, but you are having trouble living your values, really putting them in. I think that's a sign that there's something going on in my world.
Yes.
With your free will, that something's compromising.
I mean, it may not be your free will. I mean, if you're in a very difficult situation, I'm getting set to go to Europe, as I mentioned, and whenever I visit there, I'm sort of reminded of World War II. And it didn't matter that much what you were doing. If you were in Central Northern Europe during the war, it was going to really mess up your life. And toward the end, the Germans were drafting everybody from 13 to 70. So you didn't have a lot of choice, and you weren't allowed to say, I think we might lose the war. You'd be shot on the spot. So, even though it was obvious to everyone after the Stalingrad battle that the Germans were losing. Yeah. So, you can be in a very difficult situation. But if the world's not pressing on you, you're still not getting to where you want to go, then maybe the problem is mainly in you. And you can't always do something about it.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of challenges in this country, but I think we have great challenges with our youth, with those that are leaving high school, going into college, or even graduating college, where it feels like some of them are very lost, and I think it's this piece where they have so many choices, right? And they've been given so much in so many ways that and I'm not sure they've really been trained in developing their willpower.
Yes, it is daunting, and on the one hand, it's wonderful to have so many choices. I mean, in the history of Western civilization, most people were farmers, and you were born on a farm. And you were just going to be a farmer, and that there wasn't any other option to you maybe run away and try to go to sea or something like that. But you're basically locked into that life, and we're so far from that now. Very few of our people are farmers because of advances in technology. A few, I don't know what the percent of the population, but I'm sure it's less than 5% that can grow enough food to feed the whole country. And then there are lots and lots of other occupations, but you need some basis for making those decisions.
Yeah. I'm going to back up for a second. How do we define free will? How do you define it?
Well, that's a good point, starting point. I say in the book, I've talked to many scientists who believe in free will and many who don't. And I mostly agree with both of them. They both have valid points because they're using different definitions. And the ones who are opposed to it think it means some kind of decision-making that doesn't use the brain. Maybe the soul comes into the brain and causes behaviors. I don't really believe in that. Or they believe that somehow causality stops working. Well, scientific theories are causal theories, so I don't really believe in that either. But the scientists who believe in it use an idea like you're able to act differently in the same situation. And that is important. It fits with what we know about evolution. It's very adaptive, even in simple animals, being able to learn so you can change your reaction to a situation when the other one doesn't work. That's before free will. But that behavioral flexibility goes back, and human evolution just took this a big step further. We're able to integrate a lot more things into our decision making. But the short answer to your question is being able to act differently in the same situation.
Yeah, I also define it in a way that in my own world, it's like being able to, I just kind of simplify, do what you want when you want and thrive. You know, it's that piece for me. Yeah, interesting.
Well, thriving is certainly there, but I was just at a conference where people were talking about research on suicide, and I suppose you could use your free will to decide to kill yourself. Usually with the people who do that, it's not thriving, but they're in such a miserable situation that they would rather have nothing than what their life is like. And I'm not here to encourage that, but
I always think they're killing the wrong person off. I think they're trying to kill their ego off, and I'm not sure that that's. I really believe that people and I'm not trying to judge people, but because I know there's a lot of misery and suffering that goes on out there, but I think a majority of them don't really know who they are, which is why they've lost their purpose. They've lost faith in this world. And yeah, but I wasn't going to go down that way. So let me ask you this: the science behind why some actions feel freer than other actions. Let's talk about that. I do have to take a quick break. We'll take a quick break and we'll talk about that. Well, some people feel pretty free and others don't, and there's actions around that. So we'll be right back.
Imagine this is your money and someone wants to take it from you. Who is it? The IRS. Guess what? They want your money and they can take it, all of it if they want. Remember, they sent you that letter right over here that said, hey, you owe us a bunch of cash and we're going to take it from you right now. So what do? You fight back by letting our team of experts work it out with the IRS so you can keep your money. And hey, we're good at what we do. When you hire us, you get a team of guys on your side that know the IRS laws, and we'll fight really hard to save your money. So if you owe the IRS a ton of cash and you want to keep it, call right now and learn for free how we can help you put it back in your pocket. 5 minutes of your time right now can save you thousands of dollars. And the best part, it's a free call, so please call right now.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'll be right back with my guest, Dr. Roy Baumeister, in just a second. I did want to let you all know that we have a YouTube channel out there. I encourage you to subscribe to it so that you don't miss any of our shows. Of course, our shows are listened to on 29 different streaming platforms, over 200 podcast platforms, and we're on AM, FM across the country. You can find us there, but easy way to do it is go to youtube.com/@the-courage-network and subscribe there. I hope you do. All right, Roy. Science behind why some actions feel freer than others.
All right. Well, I first want to say that feeling free and being free aren't exactly the same thing. I had this really wonderful German colleague who ran a lot of studies asking people when and why they feel free. And he tested a lot of things that objectively mean freedom, like you have more options. You're freer if you have more options. Obviously, if you only have one option, you're not free. But 5 should feel freer than 2. But that made it harder. And so people feel freer when they get what they want, and it's fairly easy, which maybe is not exactly what our advanced mental powers evolved for. They evolved for dealing with complex, difficult situations. I always start with the human mind was created by nature for culture. It was created by evolution, but evolution goes natural selection, what helps you survive and reproduce. Our species, humans, we do it in a way most other animals don't. We set up this really complicated social environment, organize it with culture. It's working really well. The human population is expanding even while most of the other mammals are declining. So we need advanced mental powers to deal with the complicated decisions people have to make in our world, like what to major in college and what career path to take, or how to plan to save money for eventually buying a house or supporting children, or at the end for retiring. You need to be able to think through the options and understand them in a productive way. But that's hard work, and people don't know that. So that they have kind of a stereotype of freedom that should be easy and good things should happen. Well, it evolved to help good things happen, but it really probably evolved to handle the hard things. I sometimes say in one of my talks is at a certain point about it, I say, in a sense, free will is for following rules. And I bring that up because most people think, well, freedom would be being able to do whatever you want with no rules. But my answer is any animal out in the woods can do that, do whatever it wants with no rules. What takes advanced mental powers, which are our free will, are to be in a complicated social environment where there are lots of rules and still negotiate it to get what you want.
I think when I've been an athlete myself for decades, and the more discipline I seem to have in my life, the freer my life is, and I'm much more productive with discipline.
It's great you bring that up, because what got me started, and I was doing research on self-control. I spent much of my career trying to understand the human self, and I have another book out recently that summarized everything I've learned from lots of other people and my own work over 40 years. But self-control is one of the keys of it, and it's one of the keys to success in life. Previously, I'd studied self-esteem, but thinking you're great doesn't really lead to success in life. But good self-discipline, self-control, yes, because it enables you to keep going when things are tough, to make the right decisions, to pursue and persevere in difficulty. And so it's when I started having my theories about self-control, and I realized they also applied to rational decision-making. And I said, okay, this is more than self-control. And that's when I realized I had stumbled into the area of free will. As all the philosophers who talk about free will, they have examples of self-control, they have examples of rational choice and decision-making. So both of those are important. And once I was looking for something to bridge those two, that's what made me say, okay, this if free will exists, this is what it is. If it doesn't exist, this is what is mistaken for it. But the ability to discipline, control yourself, resist temptation, pursue, even dragging yourself out of bed in the morning to get to work, that's all good and very, very beneficial. And then using logic to make sensible decisions rather than just being impulsive. And then I've added two more. Planning is another one, and taking initiative. In other words, responding to your life actively rather than just passively going along with the group and what others said. That quartet, self-control, rational choice, planning, and initiative, those are really remarkable human advances in the mind. And those are tremendously adaptive and useful for people if you want to thrive, as you were bringing.
But there seems to be. Well, first of all, let me ask a question, and then I'll put up the book, because you got this amazing book out there, and it's a deep dive into this topic that we're talking about: free will, self-control. In my world, the rational mind can rationalize anything. You can rationalize, well, I'm not going to go out today. I'm just going to sit home and play my video games. I'm going to watch TV all day. And, you do that one day, that's fine. But what if you're doing it, for 100 days in a row? You're rationalizing it. And I think that seems to be, in my world, that's lack of free will. I think you're now running into an area of habit, and you've got a program running you as opposed to you running the program. I could be wrong about that, but that's kind of where I go. Where does the science go on that?
Well, one thing I learned with self-control, and by extension free will, is that people who are good at it use it to change their habits. So a lot of life runs on habit, and habits don't need free will. Habits are basically automatic responses. There might be a little, but mostly not. But the people say with good self-control, they use it to break bad habits and establish good habits. And then your day-to-day life runs on automatic pilot, so it's easy. I think of like an exercise program. We all know you should exercise some. It's hard to get started. But once you have the habit established, I mean, for me, it's around 4 o'clock in the afternoon after I've been doing my writing and my other work. But then it's time to take a break and go work out and get some exercise. I don't have to struggle with myself or rationalize or do anything. It's just part of my daily routine. And that way it gets done. So I should add to what you're bringing up is there's a long history in psychology of saying, well, is this conscious or unconscious, as if there are two competing systems. No, there are two systems that work together very effectively. The conscious part is the overseer and the planning and all that. And then it hands it off to the automatic system, especially if you've got good habits to execute and get it done. Even just deciding to walk to the corner store, you can decide what time and what do I have to get there and so on. Once you do that, you don't have to control every movement of your feet while you're walking to the store. You can be listening to your headphones or thinking about something else or having a conversation. Your feet execute the walk automatically. The brain has to make a command or a bunch of commands for every step you take. But all that is done outside of consciousness. So again, conscious and unconscious work together and you get to the store. But you use the conscious to think the big picture and what do you want to go and what are your values and what do you.
When I think of will, I guess I've raised my hand here. I've raised it up. Takes will to do that. Okay, I had to think about it. And I gave the body the command, and now my hands up. I think that with this free will, there's a lot of people are. I don't know if it's a lot. Some people are stuck in mental health issues. They're stuck in not feeling a sense of fulfillment. They're stuck in a place of lack of purpose. And I think a lot of it ties into this subject that you're talking about. It's this will. And, I want to put your book up on the screen, by the way, and we can talk about that. But Dr. Baumeister's book is The Science of Free Will. And so how does that apply to free will? That I just shared with you.
Well, again, most of what I've done is not grappling with mental illness, and I've been talking to colleagues about doing another book on free will in therapy and mental illness. But being stuck in situations or experiences that are not being good for you and not helping you reach your goals, that's a failure to use it. Self-control is a kind of a limited energy resource. So people, some people, they just don't have enough self-control or initiative to take charge of their life. And, that's unfortunate. And I don't know with the modern life if we're making people more passive. They're certainly bombarded with information and advice, and now artificial intelligence is going to take over a lot of our thinking for us.
Yeah.
Probably for better and for worse.
Yeah.
But I still want to encourage people to do some thinking for themselves and, periodically assess.
Yeah.
But what I've done for 40 years is every year I set aside my birthday and kind of reflect on my life, and I write a couple pages on everything that's happened. It's fascinating how much you forget of your own life, even in over a couple years, and things that were such a big issue a few years ago, are just vanished and gone. But it's at least a good time to reflect on where you are and where you want to be. And do I need to start thinking about making changes in myself, in my relationships, in my environment, in my job? If you just go, live for the next weekend, you'll kind of stumble through life and not really necessarily end up where you wanted to be. I knew a wise man, a senior colleague some years ago, and he said, you should always have a 5-year plan. You can change it. You don't have to be locked into it. And of course, new opportunities come, or things that you were moving toward suddenly are no longer viable. So you can change it, but you should have one. And I think that's very sensible, and that would be a very adaptive use of your free will. So encourage the people watching and listening to take a few moments and say, okay, where am I? Where would I want to be 5 years from now? And do I have to do anything different? If I'm happy with my life as it is, okay. Maybe no changes are needed. But most people have goals or think of how things could be better, and what do we want to achieve? Number of my friends are.
I think that's a really important point. And when we're talking about developing will, there's nothing like, I've been a business strategist, a life coach prior to getting into the shows here for 30 years, and nothing better to develop willpower than to set a vision, to create a goal, and go accomplish it. It's like you said. Well, my goal is to get to the gym, right? And I had one guy, by the way, one guy that he couldn't get to the gym, right? He's busy executive, and I said, well, all right, if you can't get to the gym, why don't you get a little leverage on yourself? So we're pain pleasure creatures. What would create some pain for you that would motivate you to get to the gym? And he says, well, if I don't go this week, I'll eat a can of dog food. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, maybe a tablespoon, because I want you alive, brother. But he did. He got to the gym, and it was just getting over the hump. And once he did that, he developed his willpower. He kept going, right? So I think there's practical ways, like you just said. I think this is a really important piece to this.
Yes, some of the earliest thinking in psychology about self-control and self-regulation involved setting punishments for yourself and rewards. If I get this done, then I can do something I want to do. I think maybe I was fortunate being brought up. My parents taught me like that too. And I understand Asians who are very successful parents in terms of how well their children do and upwardly mobile and all that. They're often like that. And a kid says, well, I want to have a candy bar or something. And instead of saying, okay, here, or no, the parent might say, well, if you can practice piano for an hour a day for the next 3 days, then you can have that candy bar. You have to follow through and make sure you give it. Otherwise, the kid learns that's a loser deal, although the kid probably remind you. but make sure to follow through on that. And then you learn to set rewards and punishments for yourself. And yes, rewarding yourself is a fine thing to do, especially when you reach your goals. I was just at a conference talking to young researchers, graduate students working on their PhDs and things. I say, well, be sure to celebrate when you get a success. Research careers are hard, and for an experiment to work out the way you want it, or for something you're trying to publish to get accepted for publication, that's a big deal. Don't just cross it off the list. Go out to dinner with your research collaborators and make a fuss over it. And at the same time, punish yourself and don't give in. You got to be strict. If you didn't do it, then you can't have the reward that you promised, and that helps.
It does help, and I think what doesn't help, if you're trying to guilt or shame yourself into something, I don't think that helps. But I do think it's like, okay, you know what? And I like to create win-win. So somebody says, all right, you know what? I'm going to create some negativity so that this helps move me forward. I always tell people, well, create negativity so you win, and maybe somebody in your community wins, or a church wins, or a university wins, or somebody else. So, I'll tell them, well, why don't you give $500 to your local charity? And, if you don't get that, that's what you do. So we everybody wins here. It's my formula. So, but again, it's really, all about what we're talking about. It's about developing that will to a place where it really works for you in your life. The book is The Science of Free Will. It's by Roy Baumeister, and you can get it on Amazon, Roy. Is that?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think it's easy to get. I should add, I wrote it so that anyone, or at least anyone who even had some college, can understand it. It's not really a technical thing aimed at scientists. I was careful, so I think the scientists will respect it. I've had a number of experts go through it and offer me comments, and they seem to like it. So it's respectable at that level, but I think you've seen some of it. You don't have to be an expert. It's something pretty much anyone can understand.
Well, I think those are the most successful books, the ones that we can understand at any level. Or at least you got some education. So the science, when I'm thinking the science of free will, do you have any studies in the book that surprised you? Like when you did the study and you didn't realize that life was in this direction around free will. I got to take a quick break, actually. Let me take the break. We'll come back. We'll answer that. If anything surprised you when you did the science around this book, I'm really curious about that.
Okay.
Right back.
Hi, everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. We're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now.
Hi, folks. Joe Namath here. Did you know that I wear hearing aids? I love my hearing aids, and I am here to help you get a deal on the same brand I wear.
Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get MD Hearing's revolutionary Neo hearing aids for just $297 a pair. The Neo is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. And you can get 2 Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime US-based support for only $297. The Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call now and get not 1 but 2 Neo hearing aids for just $297.
800-789-7885. Again, that's 800-789-7885.
Welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Ken D. Foster. Hey, if you just joined us, we're talking to Roy Baumeister. He's one of the world's most prolific and influential psychologists. He's published over 700 scientific works, including 40 books. We're talking about his new book today. So what surprised you in the science of free will?
All right. One I already mentioned was that there was a mismatch between feeling free and actually sort of objective freedom, that people seem to feel freest when they got a good result with minimal effort, whereas free will should be more for thinking hard about difficult decisions. Another thing, there's a very clever study published a couple of years ago comparing humans and the other great apes, our closest relatives. So they would drop a treat into a tube, and they put it in the top, and it would fall out the bottom and into a hole and be gone unless they put out their hand and caught it. They had 2, 3, and 4-year-old children. They had adult chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas. Everybody could do that. Everybody learned to get the treat. Then they brought out another tube that had 2 openings at the bottom, and it would randomly come out this side or this side. So if you're just using one hand, you had to guess, and you'd only get the treat half the time. But if you use both hands, if you figured out, well, both of these are possible, then I should prepare for both. The 2-year-old human children couldn't figure that out, but the 3-year-olds did, and the 4-year-olds got it every time. They had 20 trials. They got it. But none of the apes could figure it out. None of them had the mental powers to prepare for two different possible outcomes, even when they're essentially right in front of you. And so that shows a remarkable advance in mental powers of the human mind. And obviously, I think it's fair to say you're freer, or you have more free will, if you understand that there are two different possible outcomes, and you should prepare for both, than if somehow your brain can't think in those terms. And so I was really struck by that study, and that impressed me with how unique the human.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking, well, what happens if you had 4 tubes? I guess that's where the human gets a basket or something. But that's very interesting. What we learned here. Yeah.
And in a lab study with tubes, that's not as big a deal, but you can understand for the future that you have these different options. And so it kind of reminds us how much the animal mind just responds impulsively to the immediate situation with very little ability to understand multiple possibilities. But multiple possibilities are one of the essential things on free will.
Yeah, 100%. In the book, you talk about how grounding actions in time enhances our decision-making capabilities.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. Most animals live in the immediate present. We forget how much that is, but they can have signs that maybe something good or bad is going to happen pretty soon. But even to have an idea what that is, the expectancies only a minute or two into the future. Even the smartest among them, like the chimpanzees, they can occasionally prepare for something maybe 15 or 20 minutes later. And this is like they're going to go look for food, and they see a stick that maybe they can use. They eat bugs. I can take that stick along and stick it in some holes, and the bugs will crawl up on it, and then I can eat the bugs. So that's a little bit of a preparation. Whereas with humans, we can project years in the future. We can plan for things after our own death, even. I've talked to some men who are getting old, and they're concerned about, can I provide for my wife after I'm gone? Likewise, we can integrate things from the distant past into the present. It's not clear that animals can even remember the past the way we do. We don't really remember it exactly. We recreate it based on information. But, we celebrate Christmas. I mean, that's an event that occurred over 2,000 years ago. And yet, when December comes, even if you're not a believer, you usually participate in the holiday, and you go out and buy presents. So you're thinking of something that occurred in the past, as well as what you need to do in the future. You need to have gifts for your loved ones. And so in the present, you go out and go shopping and make decisions there. The bigger, and in a sense, more complicated, interesting point is that we understand our lives as a story. So what's happening in the present is a step between the past and the future. And it's not clear that even our smartest animal relatives really do that. And if you went to, say, a gorilla or a chimpanzee and said, well, last year you were doing this and now you're doing something different. What's the deal? You're changing your, even if they could understand, they would think that's a stupid question. Whereas we ask each other this, why are you being inconsistent? Because we expect people to have continuity across time in their lives, and there are reasons to change. And you have an explanation there. Well, last year I had different concerns. Last year I had more money than this year, or less money, and so I can make different choices, or lots of things like that.
What a fascinating discussion this is. We just got out of time, Dr. Baumeister, so I want to put the book on the screen again. It's The Science of Free Will, Roy F. Baumeister. You can get it on Amazon. And I think for any of my audience out there that want to take a deeper dive into free will, where you've gotten stuck, where where you need to like maybe educate yourself on your own understanding of the consciousness of your own mind and how it free will impacts it, and some of the studies that Dr. Baumeister has done here. I think it's a brilliant book. I think recommend that. Go get it and figure it out. Right? This is something that we're all running on. We're running on will. Why not understand how it works in your life? Okay, you got about a minute. Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Well, using our powers to reflect on life and make our life better. We are animals, but we are more than animals, and we can get more out of life if we plan ahead, think for the future, respect the past, and incorporate lessons from it, understand our options, use logical reasoning and self-discipline to get what we want. It really contributes to really the wonderful flourishing that is possible in human life.
I love it. Dr. Roy Baumeister, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Ken, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. And thank all of you for joining us today. This is an amazing show. We hope you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll put that up there one more time. YouTube.com /@ the Courage Network. YouTube.com @ the Courage Network. So check us out there. And from my heart to yours, continue to see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and you will be able to do the impossible. Gotta expand your thinking now.